Grid maps have always been one of the most powerful tools for building 3D worlds in Godot, but they had one huge problem. Every time you wanted to update your mesh library, the workflow was very slow and very easy to break. Godot 4.7 just changed that. This update made me interested in using grid maps again. If you ever used grid maps before, think of them as 3D equivalent of a tile map. You create a library of reusable pieces or tiles, and then you can use those to create your own world. The concept has always been great, but the workflow hasn't. Today I'll show you how that changed and how I am already using it in one of my own projects. So before this new version of Godot, creating a mesh library was kind of complicated because you had to create a separate scene and then add all of your meshes, configure all collisions, and then you had to export everything into a mesh library resource. So you can assign that resource to your grid map. It wasn't that bad, but the real problem was the following. Imagine that you had to go back to Blender and update one of your models. You can add a few pieces, reorganize your assets, but every time you try to re-export your mesh library, you have to hope that nothing breaks, otherwise you have a lot of trouble trying to fix it. In this case, you'd have to re-export your mesh library and hope nothing breaks, which occasionally happened. In some cases, IDs could change, references could get messed up, so while you could automate parts of that using external plugins or using your own code, it always felt really bad for me. That's one of the reasons I stopped using grid maps for larger projects. I used for like prototyping and smaller stuff. The tool itself was great, but the pipeline wasn't that great for me. So now instead of creating a separate scene and exporting resources manually, Godot 4.7 introduces a dedicated mesh library editor. This feels like the system should have worked from the beginning, in my opinion. So this makes my life much easier now. So you can just create a mesh library, open the mesh library editor, and then you can add all the elements, assign all the meshes, the collision shapes, and even add a navigation mesh if needed. You can even assign a custom preview image, and everything happens inside the editor, which is really convenient. This feels much closer to the tile map workflow that 2D developers use. Once you've created a few tiles, using them is very simple. You switch back to grid map and start painting. You can block out your rooms, create all the platforms, build walls. For me, this almost feels like working in RPG Maker or Tiled. It's a very good and fast tool for prototyping and doing level design. Best part of this update for me is updating them, because let's say you want to replace this sphere with a capsule. In previous versions, this could become annoying and very tiresome, so now you can simply change the mesh and the grid map updates automatically. So now you'll be able to change and rebuild your mesh library, and this will remove a lot of friction from the workflow. So now I'm currently working on a small 3D RPG with a friend. For a while, I was building modular environments directly inside Blender, but making changes was a bit slow. Every adjustment required a lot of moving, and this made me waste a lot of time trying to recreate the rooms and trying to reposition things. I decided to give a shot to this new grid map workflow. So I created a set of modular tiles in Blender, exported them as a GLB file, imported them into Godot, create a mesh library, the same process I did before. What makes my life much easier now is that if I need to modify a material, I can do it. If I want to replace the mesh, it's very easy to do. You can easily expand the library later, which is very useful for larger rooms, or you want to add new stuff to your map, and you just have to click one button here and everything works. So one thing I noticed, and I think it's something that's missing in this new update, Godot introduced the vertex snapping tool, and it's fantastic. But unfortunately, it doesn't currently work with grid maps. If that support gets added in the future, I think grid maps will become even stronger, and you'll be able to put props, objects, and other meshes into the map using the grid maps vertex points, the vertex points of the tiles you've been using. And this is really useful for people like me who likes to create like more stylized and low poly worlds. Grid maps are really good in Godot. The problem was never the tool itself, but the problem was actually the workflow surrounding mesh libraries. With the new editor, that workflow is much better. It's faster and cleaner. You can do a lot of different things. You couldn't do it in the past. If you've ignored grid maps in the past, this might be the time to give it a shot. And maybe you like it and you see it useful for some of your projects or some of your prototyping ideas. I don't know, it's something people should have a look because it's a very good improvement. And the most important thing, they actually feel very fun to use. So thanks a lot for watching and see you guys in the next video.